Preparing for an interview can be a daunting task. Anticipating and then practicing questions takes time, which you sometimes may not have. Still, you need to be prepared to answer some of the more common questions that may come up. Hi, I'm Valerie Sutton. I'm an experienced career coach focused on applying research to practice of building and managing your career. In this course, I'm going to take you through the most common interview questions and show you how you can structure your responses. You'll also see examples of successful answers for both entry-level and mid-career candidates. In the end, all questions come down to the point, why should I hire you? This will be based on your skills, your qualifications, your fit, and if the organization feels you'll be successful. That's why it's important to make sure your answers are unique to you so you don't come across as a generic candidate. By reviewing these questions, you'll develop a framework to craft authentic answers that show your enthusiasm for the organization and role. Let's get started. Depending on the position you are pursuing, you may have multiple rounds of interviews with a variety of people throughout an organization. As you plan to answer questions, you should consider who is asking the question. Often interviewers are not trained, so they rely on common questions they have heard in their own interviews. Depending on each individual and the role they have in the organization, they will be looking for very different things. Let's review what a human resource manager, a supervisor, and coworkers might be looking for in an interview. A human resource manager is often not the decision maker in the hiring process. They, however, are responsible for ensuring a candidate has the basic qualification and is a fit for the position. They often are the first to talk you through what is called a screening interview. They'll ask some basic questions to gauge your interest in the organization and confirm basic qualifications. A supervisor, on the other hand, is going to be looking for how you have excelled in your past experiences and test more on specific skills and knowledge you would bring to the job. They want to know that you are tactful, committed to the company and job. They'll be quite knowledgeable about the specifics of the role, and you won't be able to fake your way through it. Be prepared with specific examples that showcase skills, knowledge, and fit. Your potential coworkers will be concerned that you have the skills and knowledge for the job, but they will be most concerned with your fit. They'll be the ones spending the most time with you and want to understand how you communicate and work on a team. If you are going to be interviewing with multiple people in one day, and human resource manager does not provide you with a schedule prior to your interview day, you can request this information. This will help you prepare for each interview that you may have. For example, you might say, to help me as I prepare for the interview, it would be great to have my schedule and who I might be interviewing with. Is that possible? By knowing your schedule, you can make sure to address each person's concern and be sure to make the best impression during the interview. Every industry and role has a norm for interviews, and understanding these are important considerations for common interview questions. Be sure to research what these norms are to craft the strongest answers. Review the company's website and look for how it describes the organization and its leadership. You can often see if the tone is straight and professional, conversational, or amusing. Also look at press releases and media mentions about the company. This can help you to set the language and tone of your answers. For example, a startup may describe itself with words like innovative, visionary, sweats the details, versus a large corporation that focuses on taking leadership seriously, responsibility to improve lives, and serving the communities we live and work in. Understanding the main priorities for the job will give focus to your answers. It helps to analyze the position prior to the interview to determine your strengths and weaknesses in an objective manner. It will also give you clues to how you might work within a team or department. Even though there are common interview questions, there are no common answers. So by spending some time up front on research, you will come across as anything but a common candidate. Understanding how questions are asked is important to shaping your answers. There are 3 basic question formats: behavioral, situational, and resume-based. Most common questions fall into either behavioral or situational structure. The first and most common are behavioral questions. The concept is to use your past behavior to predict future behavior. It will often take the form of, tell me about a time, or give me an example. This allows you to draw upon your past experiences to show your skills and knowledge. For example, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses is a classic example of behavioral questions. You will want to have specific examples using the SAR method by outlining the situation, actions, and results in each answer. The second type of question is case or situational. The purpose is to evaluate your problem-solving, analytical abilities, and planning skills. These questions will often take the form of how would you or what would you do. Your answer shows how you would approach a problem or work situation and allows them to see how you think on your feet. Examples include, what would you like to accomplish in the next 30 days? So as we explore different types of common questions in this course, pay attention to whether they are behavioral or situational. Being able to identify them will help you strengthen your answers. Tell me about your strengths is often a common question from inexperienced or untrained interviewers. The question framed this way can confuse a candidate, and they may wonder why the interviewer even called them. It encourages rambling responses if you don't know how to focus your answer. What they're trying to discover is your core competency for the job and if you have a realistic view of yourself. We all have many strengths that we can bring to a position. The key to answering this effectively is to identify the traits that align with the job and prioritize what you would focus on. You want to be sure to cite specific examples to support your viewpoint. You don't want to fake your answer because follow-up questions could include, give me an example of how you've used this strength in the last week, or can you give me another example of how you've used this strength? You should identify the core competencies by looking at the job description. Focus on the first 3 competencies listed to prioritize your answer. Then come up with examples that support these strengths. This is good practice for any interview because there are more savvy ways to ask this question. A trained interviewer is going to ask this question in a variety of ways to get a more accurate view of what you bring to the job. A few examples might include, what would your direct reports say about you? How would your supervisor describe your value? Discuss your resume, or tell me about an accomplishment you are most proud of. Your preparation for your core competencies will work for any of these questions. It's always a good practice to be prepared for a strength-based question. By identifying the employer's needs and developing examples of how you meet their needs will prepare you for any question. Let's hear some answers from job candidates responding to this question. What are your strengths? Remember that it is important to analyze the job description to determine what you focus your answer on. The first candidate is Tom, who is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer. In this job description, customer focus, visual learning, and storyboarding are the key elements.
What are your strengths?
As you saw in my resume, I'm very customer focused. I do a lot of user design, and I do a storyboard in the prototypes that I have. I have a visual board that I use for my customers, so then that way they're able to use the mobile devices. And then in my storyboard, I take all of that on with my other projects as well.
Tom focused on several core competencies, including customer focus, visual learning, and storyboarding when answering this question. He also effectively supported this with a specific example and highlighted his course knowledge. Job candidates are often nervous when interviewing early in their career, and that's okay. If I were to give Tom advice, I say he should pause before answering the question to collect his thoughts. Now let's look at how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager might answer this question. In this position, it is important to have experience with evaluation, assessments, and a collaborative working style.
What are your strengths?
My strength is in evaluation and assessments of programs. In the last position I had, I created a development plan for a 1,400-person company, which focused on senior management and line employees. Part of the evaluation was creating a 360 assessment so that employees could have a holistic view of their work performance. And I believe the key to bringing out my strength is collaboration, and I was able to demonstrate that in my last position working with senior managers.
During her interview, Donna focused on two competencies, evaluation and collaboration, when answering the question about her strengths. She brought these out in a specific example that will definitely spark interest in the interviewer. It is often easier for the candidate to answer these types of questions when they have direct experience in the field, rather than showing how transferable skills from things like coursework or other experiences might apply. Everyone's favorite question. Tell me about your weaknesses. Do they really think they're going to get an honest answer? Well, that is exactly what you should do, and here is why. They're looking for you to have a realistic view of your competencies and the ability to improve on performance. Let's face it, more often than not, you're not going to have 100% of what is in the job description. In fact, as an employer, I may hope to get someone that has about 70 to 75% of the qualifications, so that there is room for an employee to grow and feel stretched in the position. This allows you to be honest and show them how you can improve in a particular area quickly. To choose which weakness to focus on, analyze the job description and determine what you don't have. This will also be obvious to the employer since it will not be strongly represented on your resume. For your answer, you want to choose the item that you could learn quickly or is least important to the job. Often, the items listed at the bottom of the responsibilities in a job description are the least important. When framing your answer, you want to state your weakness and then let them know how you will overcome it. For example, you may not have managed a staff before, and you'll be required to do so in the next job. You could say something like this. I haven't had formal management experience, but I can apply my knowledge of managing a volunteer group to motivate staff. In addition, I've also taken several management classes that I will be able to apply to this situation. When you're faced with showing a weakness, choose wisely and show how you will either use transferable skills or learn the new skill quickly. They just want to know that you have a realistic view of yourself and can overcome any challenges that may present themselves. Let's look at some examples of job candidates answering the question, tell me about your weaknesses. The key to answering this question is to be honest and mindful of what skills you may need to develop. The first candidate, Tom, is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer.
What are your weaknesses?
As you mentioned in the job description, I'm not able to use After Effects, but I was able to pick up Illustrator quite quickly with the help of my friends and by taking a course. I was also able to create a logo for my boss that turned out quite well. And with that, I was able to pick it up, and I know I could pick up After Effects as well.
Tom's example is something the interviewer can readily see is not on his resume. To make up for his lack of experience, he touches on his other technical skills. He also uses an example from his past to address the weakness. Now let's look at how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager would answer this question.
What are your weaknesses?
I don't have experience working in the consumer packaged goods industry, but I do have a variety of training or a variety of experience in training and development. And I find that setting up evaluation and training practices are pretty similar across industries. However, I do think that technical training needs change the most. And that is why it's so important to have somebody with that expertise to build evaluation and assessments from scratch. I think to come up to speed with the technical training needs, I would meet with managers in the area to gain an understanding of what their employee needs are. Mm-hmm. And I would build a program based on that information.
Great.
Again, the interviewer can easily identify the candidate doesn't have this experience on her resume. Still, Donna demonstrates her functional expertise and shows that it's transferable across industries, as well as explaining how she would handle the situation once on board with the company. There are a variety of reasons an interviewer might ask, why are you interested in our company? And this really can be more difficult than you think. You may respond about how much you enjoy their product, but what they're really asking is how you see yourself contributing to the position. To best determine the meaning of this question, let's review the primary reasons for asking it. First, they may be focused on your true interest in the company. They want to have someone who is committed to the profession, product, or service, and not just seeking any job. A second reason is that they want to know you understand the position and how you plan on contributing to it. And finally, they want to know your long-term career goals and how this position fits. This helps them to determine how long you may possibly stay in the position. Since you don't know the motivation behind the question, you need to address each reason in a concise manner. You can frame it in any order, and I suggest starting with the area that truly excites you. Let's take the example of applying for a user design position with a company called Red 30. The first thing to do is research the company through their website, news releases, and LinkedIn profiles of those currently in the position and their supervisors. This can reveal if the company promotes from within, signaling the potential for you to grow in a position. In addition, it allows you to see what skills people in the current position are using so you know what really matters for the job. You learn that Red 30 started in 2007, has since grown vertically to include divisions for event promotions and corporate accounts. It's clear that several user design professionals at Red 30 have received promotions. And you also know they enjoy helping people through effective design techniques and use innovative approaches for doing so. With this information, you can frame the answer to why you're interested in this company in the following way. I am interested in Red 30 because it will allow me to use my focus on innovative approaches to design and apply them to a growing company. In my research, it was nice to see a company focused on expanding their offering to the corporate world and growing opportunities for its current staff. It's particularly exciting to see that many of your user design experts have been promoted from within. I'm looking forward to growing my expertise within Red 30. It's a great opportunity to not only build my career, but to also help organizations maximize their brand. As you can see, this answers all three of the reasons that someone might ask this question in a concise answer. This answer would also fit for the following questions. What do you like about our position? Why are you interested in this position? Or how did you hear about this position? It is important to show them in any of these that you are serious about the position and the company. Let's look at some examples of job candidates answering the question, why are you interested in our company? There are 3 topics that are important to highlight when responding to this question. Why are you interested in the company? the position, and how does the company and position fit with your longer-term goals? Let's take a look at the candidate for the entry-level UX designer position.
Tom, can you tell me why you're interested in our company?
Yes. Well, while other companies focus on the Fortune 500 companies, you focus on the learning aspects of everything, including that as well. And so your dashboards and everything involve and include the interest of the students that I'm working with. And that's why I'm so focused and excited to work with the company, because it covers everything.
Great.
It's a lot to remember to cover each of the 3 topics that the interviewer may be trying to discover. Tom focuses his answer on his interest in the company first and touches on the role. He could make this stronger by also touching on his own career growth within the company. Now let's take a look at Donna, who is seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager.
Can you tell me why you're interested in our company?
Well, I have been a fan of your company for years, and I have been following your product updates closely. In addition, I did have a chance to talk to John Doe, and he confirmed that you are rated one of the best companies to work for in Boston. So I am so excited to apply my knowledge of training and development with a company that I admire so much and someone that is also continuing to develop its product lines. I believe in a company growing as fast as yours. My experience with training and development will really help continue the success of its employees.
Thank you.
Donna focuses her answer on her company interest and reveals she has done quite a bit of background research. She focuses attention on her experience as it relates to the growth of the company. When asking the question why you want to leave your current company, past company, or why you are seeking a position now, an employer just wants to see that you have sound reasoning for your decisions, and if it was a negative situation, that you handled it well. They want to know that you're career focused and not just a job hopper. This is not the time to go into your negative work history, but instead focus on the value you can bring and support it with specific examples of your work. There are many reasons a person may leave a position, and there are many ways you can potentially answer this question. The ideal situation is that you are leaving your current company for a better opportunity with them. So first, focus on what you like about the company you're interviewing with and the potential career opportunities they may offer. This is a similar approach to as why you are interested in this company. However, there might be times when talking about a negative situation is unavoidable, particularly if you quit or you were fired from a job. You might also have to address a gap on your resume or why you don't have a reference from your last employer. Don't come across as too general or as if you're trying to avoid the question. Although you'll have to address the situation, you want to focus on the positive outcomes. A good strategy is to think about what was missing in your last position and focus on that as part of the new position. For instance, if you couldn't stand your boss, you might say something like, "My past company was great and gave me the opportunity to develop a lot of research skills, but I wanted to grow in my management skills. My boss didn't have the time to offer the support I needed in this area. What I like most about this position is the professional development opportunities it offers. I have also spoken to Sarah, and she mentioned what a supportive research team this would be. Because of the professional development and supportive team, I think this is a great position for me." As you can see, it addresses the issue, but in a positive light. If you were fired, this can be a bit more difficult. Remember, the interviewer is not your critic, but they are trying to gauge if the situation was because you had a bad attitude or you were negligent in getting the work done. Putting a positive spin on it and letting them know what you learned from a situation is important. An example might look like, "It was an unfortunate situation that ended in my dismissal. In hindsight, I should have expressed my concerns about the job earlier. I would have been able to seek out training earlier. Since the dismissal, I have focused my attention on learning Excel and become quite proficient at it." The bottom line is to focus on your career growth and the value you bring to the new organization while de-emphasizing the negative aspects. Practicing a well-composed response will make even the worst situation seem reasonable. Let's examine some examples of job candidates answering the question, why did you leave your previous company? Sound reasoning is key to answering this question. Be sure to focus on what you are seeking in the new role that might have been lacking in the past. The first candidate, Tom, is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer.
Why'd you leave your last company?
The last company I worked for, they were great. My direct supervisor was brilliant at user design, but I wanted something to show off my skills and the role that I could play in the company. And so that would be able to show off my Illustrator skills and the design skills that I learned. And so that's why I'm so interested in your company.
Great.
Tom focuses on the company doing great things and that his previous supervisor was talented. He tackles the difficult situation by discussing his needs in seeking a new position. Now let's take a look at how Donna, a more senior candidate, answers this question for a training and development position.
Donna, tell me why you left your last company.
There was a phased reduction in our company, a total of 300 workers, and we were a small human resource office, so my focus moved from training and development to managing the layoff process. That is why I'm particularly excited about this position, because it focuses on my area of expertise, which is training and development, and I'll be able to use those skills geared toward the professional development of your staff.
Great.
Donna takes a difficult situation head on when she answers this question. At the same time, she refocuses the discussion to her expertise and how it will contribute to a new role. If you really want to be prepared for an interview, you should always be ready to answer what you want to accomplish in the first 90 days of the position. Many candidates think they will only be asked about the past accomplishments and not about the future. If you want to stand out as a candidate, take your past experiences and turn them into how you'll perform in the future. In the book, The First 90 Days, Michael Watkins states how critical it is for your future success in an organization. Thinking about it is imperative to the interview process. The way to approach this question is to focus on the big picture by understanding what you see as an outsider. It is a balancing act of showing what is good about the organization and also what you think needs to be fixed. You want to be careful not to completely trash the organization, but still give valid improvements that you can achieve. Based on what you see, make a few clear recommendations for your first 30, 60, or 90-day plan that are realistic based on what you currently know of the situation. State your recommendations with the caveat that there may be information that you're not aware of. These recommendations could change with new or additional information once in the position. To show you can achieve the improvements you have shared, draw upon your past experiences and the skills that you bring to the position. You should be able to support your recommendations with solid proof that you can achieve the desired results. An example might be, I really like the design on this project and think it might be even better if we used my knowledge of After Effects to add motion graphics for the website. As you answer this question, also remember the people equation. Most interviewers know you can do the job, but how you fit in the work environment is a different story. Be sure to address how you would work with your supervisors, team members, and employees to get buy-in and complete the recommendations you've made. Other ways to ask this question include, what would you like to achieve in this position? How do you see yourself being successful in this position? Or what would success look like for you in this position? They are all focused on your future accomplishments, and they want to hear you have a realistic vision that will fit in their work environment. Now let's look at some examples of job candidates answering the question, what would you like to accomplish in the next 30 or 90 days? This can be a hard question if you don't do your research first. For an entry-level candidate, it can be even more difficult because you have limited experience to draw on. In this case, you want to focus on your working preference and understanding your new colleagues' working styles. Let's see how Tom responds as he interviews for an entry-level UX designer position.
Tom, what would you like to accomplish in your first 30 days?
I want to work with an important team. I want to work with colleagues that understand the needs and the objective of the organization, and knowing how to build on strategies and the vision. And so that would lead me to the knowledge of my courses and my internship.
Great.
With this example, Tom generally focused on his fit in the organization. He does talk about taking his time to learn about his coworkers and the company, but could provide a stronger example of how he would like to contribute. Now let's look at how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager might answer this question for the first 90 days.
What would you like to accomplish in the first 90 days on the job?
Well, from my research and speaking with John, though, I know that you have several products launching in the next few months. So with the new hires in the sales and marketing department, my focus would be to determine the needs of the sales staff first. And then I would meet with the director and we would determine the best steps to get the staff up and running. Once we assess the current situation, I would be able to create staff development plans, using my experience, of course, in instructional design for the use in classroom and on-the-job training. In addition, I would be able to answer any questions that any of your employees had. And if there's anything else that I could do, I'd be more than happy to create programs that would supplement that.
Great.
Donna shows that she is familiar with the challenges of the company without passing judgment and makes specific recommendations for the first 90 days. She then supports her plan with an example of how she can draw on her past experience to help jumpstart the process. When an employer is asking when you have gone above and beyond at work, they most likely are confirming your work ethic and motivation to get the job done. There are a variety of ways they can ask this question, but will most likely always be a behavioral question. For instance, they could ask, give me an example of where you were proactive in your last position, or tell me about a time you exceeded your team's expectations. You should always have a few examples of exceeding expectations that focus on your work ethic and what motivates you. To highlight your work ethic, you want to show this is just not a one-time thing. You might start out by saying, I have several examples, but I think the most relevant is the time I helped my team exceed sales expectations by 10%. Once you choose which example you'll use, support it using the SAR approach, or with situation, actions, and results that you took to go above and beyond. It is important not to be vague, but to show real evidence that you try to exceed expectations. Finally, show how you were motivated by making it relevant to the potential employer. Make sure your answer is authentic so your enthusiasm shows. This not only helps support your answer, but it shows you how you would fit within the work environment. This will be what sets you apart from other candidates. It may be helpful to understand the three motivational types: achievement, authority, or affiliation, to help you with your answer. If you are motivated by achievement, you may tend to seek positions that allow you to advance, have a sense of accomplishment, and receive feedback. If you seek authority, your goal may be to lead others or be heard by others. And if you are motivated by affiliation, you are driven by social interactions and helping others. All of these reasons are excellent, so you'll want to focus on what is most relevant to you, and it may be a mix of them. Here's what an example might look like. What motivated me in this particular example is that my teammates were having trouble coming up with a solution, and it is important to me to consistently deliver results and maintain a healthy working environment. You can see in this example, achievement is emphasized through the individual results and affiliation with her team members. Remember, it is important to be authentic in your motivations, as this will help determine your fit with the organization. So what if you are having a hard time coming up with examples? We've all had jobs in our lives that we can't seem to muster the motivation to go above and beyond in the work, but I guarantee there have been times that you have exceeded expectations. It doesn't have to be a grand example, just one that shows you can motivate yourself. In this circumstance, you may want to use examples from volunteer work, learning something new, or one of your hobbies. Your willingness to put in the effort and getting the job done are important to all employers. So be prepared to have examples of exceeding expectations and your motivation behind doing so. This not only shows your willingness to do the job, but how you would fit within the organization's culture. For this question, give me an example of when you have gone above and beyond at work. Your initiative needs to be supported by outlining the situation, actions you took, the results of your work. It also should provide your motivation behind it. Let's hear how our first candidate, Tom, who is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer, answers this question.
Can you give me an example when you went above and beyond at work?
The best example I can come up with is when I was working at the university and at my internship. We had to create a visual effect for the materials that we were using for this program. And so the school, university, they used Illustrator and I didn't know it yet. And so I ended up learning it and I was able to create the project for our deadline.
Great.
Tom offers a very specific example and shows how he went beyond expectations by taking a course and seeking out help on his own to acquire the skills. Now, let's see how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager might answer this question.
Donna, can you give me an example of when you've gone above and beyond at work?
Well, as I mentioned in my previous position, I was charged with handling the layoffs in the organization. Since my strength is in training and development, I took the opportunity to create workshops and online resources for those individuals that were laid off in order to help them find a new position. One of the reasons why I entered this field is to help people. So it is really important for me to understand the needs of my coworkers and colleagues so that I can help them in furthering their careers.
Great. Those are really important skills.
Thank you.
In this example, it's okay to bring back an example you have used before. Donna focuses on her strength with a specific example and shows her motivation to help people, indicating she would be a great team member. Tell me how you handled a difficult situation is a classic behavioral-based fit question. They most likely are seeking information on what you may find difficult, how you go about solving problems, or how you work with people in the organization. Depending on the situation, it may also be confirming your ability to learn on the job. The way this question is asked can be broad and open to interpretation, so you will want to not only show your critical thinking skills, but you also want to show how you align with the organization's values and work style. Understanding the organization's culture will be helpful in choosing an example. This can be done through informational interviews or by secondary research through news articles or the company's website. Look for clues about how teams collaborate within the organization, how decisions are made, and how recognition is handled. This will help you pick an example that effectively showcases your critical thinking and fit. The example you pick should be specific to your style of solving problems. Some points you can emphasize are where you've used integrity, how you've used initiative, when you've sought guidance, or how you've experienced professional growth. The things to avoid would be using an example in which you did not learn from your mistakes or speaking ill of coworkers and the organization. An example might look like, my company decided to go with a new technology that was new for me and had a tight deadline. I let my manager know it would take extra training, and I asked for support. I also reached out to a team that had already converted to this technology and asked their advice for meeting the deadline. With their help, I realized that the timeline was too tight and talked to my manager about extending it. Although we weren't able to extend the deadline, we were able to bring on some extra help. I've since learned to stay on top of departmental changes outside of my unit to anticipate new technology trends and how to better negotiate timelines. Questions about difficult situations are common enough in interviews, so be prepared with several examples. We all face them, and being realistic by focusing on how you grew from the situation will help you stand out. Remember, everyone is faced with difficult situations. It is just a matter of solving problems and having a positive attitude. When answering, tell me how you handled a difficult situation, your focus should be on your critical thinking skills and how they align with the values or work styles. Let's see how Tom answers this question. He is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer.
Tom, can you tell me about a time you encountered a difficult situation?
I was working with a couple of the team members at our school, and we ended up working on a great project. Unfortunately, we all weren't able to meet the deadline, and so I had to pitch in for some of the students. They were able to get this work done with my help, but it could have been a lot better. I, for myself, being a team leader, know that I need to check in more with these students for a better experience.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yes.
Even though this was a difficult situation for Tom, he stayed away from these negative aspects. He also kept his answer focused on a specific project, understanding the issues, and how he learned from the experience. Now, let's look at how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager might answer this question.
Tell me about a time you handled a difficult situation.
As a board member of a local nonprofit, I was reviewing strategic documents and I identified some problems with their strategic planning. It had some flaws in the timelines that were set and in the evaluation of the planned training. So I contacted the director to discuss the issues, but she didn't seem to be open to talking. After reflecting on the situation, I realized that my call came at the wrong time. So I contacted her once again and asked if there was a better time that we could speak. And once we were able to coordinate our schedules, we had a much better discussion and resolving the issues.
I see.
In this case, Donna had a hard time coming up with a difficult situation at her job, so instead, she used an experience from her volunteer work. Her answers are specific and show how she resolved the situation and came to a positive conclusion. Whenever people work closely together, it's common for tensions to rise and on occasion disagreements to happen. This is why the question, how you handle disagreement with your boss, may come up in the interview. It's all about how you handle conflict and if your response is a match for the work environment. This question may also be framed as how you handled a disagreement with your team or coworker. Understanding workplace norms can be helpful when answering this question. Some organizations have a collaborative conflict culture that manage conflicts productively, while others are more combative. This is important because people make the place, and thus individual differences not only affect individual performance, but also affect overall team performance. By knowing this prior to going into the interview, you can set up an answer that is much more effective. If you can't figure out the conflict culture prior to the interview, you can still do well with this question. Much like a difficult situation, they are looking for integrity, critical thinking, and learning. Be sure to use a specific example that shows how you acknowledged and understood the different viewpoints. In choosing an example, look for one that had a positive outcome for organizational performance or helped an individual develop. If you can't think of a situation with a positive outcome, then choose an example that shows you learned something helpful for a future conflict engagement. Next, demonstrate how you advocated for your point of view and engaged them with your side of the issue. Showing that you listened to a person's idea is a big part of dealing with conflict. Also reveal that you ask questions to test their idea or build a collaborative problem-solving strategy. The example should also focus on how you maintained a positive attitude through the disagreement. Finally, let them know the result. If it was unsuccessful, that's okay. You just want to end with what you learned and how you would do it differently in the future. Disagreements are a natural part of doing business, and they help shape us in the workplace. This is not a question to be feared, but one that can show you are engaged with your work and a collaborative colleague. We're now looking at some examples of job candidates answering, "Tell me about a time you disagreed with your boss." It is important to understand that disagreements happen. Knowing the specific company's workplace norms can be helpful in forming your answer. But if not, you should focus on your critical thinking skills, integrity, and what you learned in the situation. Let's see how our candidate, Tom, answers this question. He's interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer.
Tell me about the last time you had a disagreement with your boss.
I was working at a startup company and I wanted a little more responsibility. And so I spoke to my boss about it, but she didn't think it was a good idea because I was new. She thought that I didn't have the organizational skills. I listened to her and I demonstrated that. And I think in the future, I would advocate for myself a little better.
Great.
Although this was an example that was a bad situation, Tom did not focus on the negatives. He used a specific example where he listened to his supervisor, and he also showed what he might do differently in the future. Now let's see how Donna, who is interviewing for a more senior position as a training and development manager, might answer this question.
Tell me about the last time you had a disagreement with your boss.
Well, my style of working is very collaborative, so I have found that for the most part, I get along with my boss. However, there was this one time that I wanted to survey employees for additional information on engagement, and my boss thought that it was not good timing. So I presented my case to her with some recent research in the area, and she agreed that my argument was compelling, and we finally compromised on the timeline for the project.
Oh, good. So some good experience.
Oh, definitely.
In this mid-career example, I like that Donna started with her working style and focused on a good relationship. In the example, it is specific and confirms her ability to collaborate. To tell you honestly, I have never known what people are trying to get from the question, "What makes you interesting?" This answer can be different based on the industry and who is asking it. For instance, a startup, it could be what makes you quirky and fun to hang out with, or with a more traditional organization, it may be how you uniquely are qualified for the specific role. My advice is to focus on the role and why the organization should hire you, as this is the reason you are interviewing in the first place. So why should they hire you? You're going to want to create a narrative focused on your experience, skills, and unique background, and personality that align with both the role and company culture. How you start will depend on what is most authentic to you. I will take you through each category to help you get started. The first thing to think about is bringing in your personality. No matter the position, you will be spending a lot of time with your coworkers, and they want to like you. Personality is important as this is what truly sets you apart. It establishes ongoing rapport and transforms your message. Personality is best shown through a story, so have a bit of fun and show your enthusiasm for the position freely. A great way to stand out is your excitement for their product or brand. Think about how you may have used their services or connected to their mission. For instance, if you are applying at LinkedIn, you may say something like, "I'm actually one of your first users. In fact, I got the notification that I was in the first 300,000 users, and now it's over 400 million. You will also want to state your specific skills that can add value to the position, especially where you exceed their expectations. Examine the job description and determine where you are particularly strong and focus part of your answer here. You may also want to bring in your unique experiences that add value. Think of the quality or success rate that you have had over time. Do you always exceed sales goals? Do you always submit work on time? These are great ways to showcase your experience as a whole that fit within the role or company culture. Remember to pull in all of this information into a story that allows your personality to shine through. Engage your interviewers to want to learn more about you. Your story is unique to you, and it is what makes you very interesting to the employer. We're now going to look at some examples of job candidates answering the question, what makes you interesting? When answering this, it comes down to why should I hire you? It's a narrative of your cumulative experience that led you to this position. The first candidate, Tom, is interviewing for an entry-level position as a UX designer. Let's see what he says.
Tom, what makes you interesting?
Before my coursework, I was always user-centered. I would design my thank you cards based on the personalities of the people that I would talk with. I also would love to work with your company because you are already so user-centered. And based on my experience, I would love to bring that to the company, and I would love to continue the conversations.
Great.
Tom's narrative worked well. Even though it's not work-related, he creatively demonstrates his interest in user design. He also talks about how his interest is aligned with the company's philosophy, further supporting his candidacy. Now let's look at how someone seeking a more senior position as a training and development manager might answer this question.
So Donna, what makes you interesting?
It's really about helping people. I find that each position and volunteer opportunity that I have taken on is about helping people to be the best that they can be in their careers. My experience traveling and working internationally in the United Kingdom, in Asia, in France has given me a unique cultural perspective so that I can better understand individual needs. Also, I think my experience in evaluation and assessment gives me a good idea of how to help out in each situation. And that's why I'm so excited to work for this company, because this company has so much growth and potential, and it would just be one of the most amazing places to work.
Great. Your background's really varied.
Oh, thank you.
Donna does a fantastic job of focusing on her motivation for work and supporting this with specific examples. I like that she brought in her international experience, which gives her a unique perspective that others may not have. Usually at the end of an interview, the person interviewing you will ask what questions you have for them. It is a big mistake not to have questions prepared. This shows you're not interested in the position at all. I often work with people who find it hard to come up with these questions. If this is a case, a good way to think about it is that it's a chance for you to interview the interviewer. It's important to ask the right questions of each person who's interviewing you. For instance, if it's a screening interview with a human resource manager, then asking about how the team collaborates is not the best question. But asking them about the overall culture is a great question. So each person that you interview with, you should have a separate set of questions. A great way to form these questions is in the behavioral format. It's hard to cover up a bad environment when you are asking specific examples. Even if they want to fake it, you'll be able to tell from their body language that they have no confidence in their answers. The specific questions you ask should be about determining your fit in the work environment, how your colleagues and boss will work with you, and what success looks like in the position. Think about the things you didn't have or wished for in the last job and try to determine if these are available to you in the new job. For instance, you may be looking for professional development or mentoring. You could ask, how have you been supported in your professional development here? Or, can you give me an example of how someone has mentored you at this organization? This is also an opportunity to re-engage in a question that you may feel you didn't do well on. For example, you may not have answered as strongly as you wished on what would you like to achieve in the next 30 days. You can return to this question asking what would success look like to you in the first 30 days. This way, you can hear their thoughts and come back and give some examples of how you can be successful based on their response. Finally, test out the working environment. Perhaps you're looking for work-life balance. Your research indicated they have a family-friendly environment, so you could ask, give me an example of how work-life balance plays a role in your position. When they ask you for questions, this is a great opportunity for you to confirm that this is the right position for you. By developing your questions based on your needs and interests, you can make a better decision about joining the organization.